join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any correspondence?
Not this evening.
All right. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Terry, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Frost.
Here.
No.
Here.
Ben Yosef.
Here.
Chop.
Here.
Gorson.
Here.
Wounds. Here. Tyre.
Here.
We're all here this evening. No.
This evening, we have some special visitors. Representative Nabila Syed and Representative Dan Diddich have joined us. They're in the Illinois House of Representatives. Their two districts combined to cover a large portion of our district. And Dan is also a Stevenson alum, which we are very, very proud of.
Representing us in the House.
Absolutely, we appreciate that, and we're joining us tonight to present this.
Yes, we just wanted to present you all with an award because, as you know, Stevenson ranks as in one of the top 50 public schools in the nation, ranking 9th nationally. And to me and to Representative Diddich, if I just may speak on your behalf a little bit, we're just very proud to have you all as such a tremendous resource in our community for young people. And both of us are the product of public education. I was not a Stevenson alum, I'm a Fremd alum, don't hold it against me.
Colors are close.
But a big reason why I'm serving in the state legislature, especially at such a young age, is because of the tremendous public education I received in this state. And Fremd also ranks somewhere on the list, okay? But I'm just grateful to serve the 51st district, which is just next to Stevenson, but so many of our kids benefit from the amazing education that they receive here. So thank you all so much for making time for this. Thank you so much for providing the wonderful education and experiences to young people in our community. If there's anything you want to add?
I like when Nabila speaks for me because she speaks better than I do. So, she said just about everything I wanted to say. Just wanted to thank all of you again for the very important work you do for our community. You know, like as Amy said, I'm a Stevenson graduate. My family and I, we moved back to the Stevenson High School district in large part because we wanted our kids to benefit from the same high quality education that me and my wife did, who was also a Stevenson graduate. I've known many of you for a while. Eric, I think I've known the longest in the room, who was my world religions teacher back in high school. So I think I got an A in that class actually. B plus, B plus.
But who remembers those things?
He looked it up. It must have been an A minus. He looked it up. But no, thank you so much. Congratulations again on this. Another well-deserved recognition, and as always, if there's anything I can do, or Representative Syed, I know I speak for both of us, when there's anything you need from the state of Illinois, from the legislature, from ISB, we're always happy to be a resource. Let us know what we can do to help. Thank you again for all the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Read this certificate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is for Stevenson High School in recognition of the outstanding education Stevenson High School provides. The Illinois House of Representatives extends its wishes for the school's continued success.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
very
Here you
much.
are.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did Jamie get the picture?
Jamie, can we get a quick picture?
Okay.
Sorry, do you guys mind?
Right here.
See, we're politicians. We should remember the
Yes.
picture part.
Wait, let me, hold on,
okay,
sorry.
okay.
We do it like this. Perfect one. Okay, cool.
Let me come up real quick.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Kosh, you're up.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Again for September. Super excited for today because I have a lot of exciting announcements and I've tried something new, so hopefully it's enjoyed. So the first thing was that our Key Club held its an annual service fair in the Point just 2 weeks ago, where they convened different service clubs from Stevenson and provided volunteering opportunities in and out of the Stevenson community. And so I know I run the Kiva Club here at Stevenson. We were represented there. They had Free the Children and other community organizations that offer these volunteer opportunities. So that was like a really, really great opportunity, and a lot of freshmen especially were present there. And then Wellness Week is always a really, really grand success. I think we actually did have the most attended street fest of Stevenson history. So that was like a really, really great achievement. Thank you to the National Honor Society for putting that up. These are just a couple of pictures. This is actually like my freshman, so I decided I should like feature her from advisory. But we had like really, really great time. A lot of fun food trucks, different Stevenson clubs were also represented there, and so we got to run boots there. And then as always, rather than like just the ending culminating event, we had an amazing week throughout. We had like fitness challenges as represented over here, and then different opportunities for students to engage with wellness related programming. And it was awesome. And then they had like fireworks and the stadium as usual, and it was just a really, really great opportunity for students to come in the beginning of the year and kind of interact with each other, interact with faculty, sponsors, and then like also just their friends. It's great.
Those are great pictures, by the way.
I think I got them from Mr. Schwink's photos website. But and then also just a lot of fun that's been happening. So I'm a senior. So our senior class board had like a Smoothies for Seniors event 2 weeks ago on a late arrival, where like a bunch of us seniors had the opportunity to go grab some smoothies. That was sponsored by senior class board. And then also our student lounge is up and running by peer helpers, and so students are stopping by there and having an opportunity to just like relax, unwind in the student lounge. It's always a great opportunity, and I know that like a lot of my friends just hang out there, so it's a really, really great place. And then of course, open house was recently 2 open houses, very, very grand successes. I am like over there in that shirt. But it was awesome, and I think that something very unique that's never been done before that happened this year was on the second night, one of our senior FMP mentors actually recommended to Ms. Dittman, who's the supervisor for the freshman mentor program, that students should wear like another name tag that says "I speak this language," and it's like written in like the language that they speak. And obviously, we have these parents coming in. We assume a lot of them speak English, but a lot of the times they don't. And so this was like a new innovation, this new thing change that we made this year, where all of us mentors got to just wear a name tag of the language that we speak other than English to connect with parents and families that are there and kind of be more aware of the different cultures and languages that are spoken here in Stevenson. Really, really great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, what was the concept? Did people come up to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I said I spoke Tamil, and a lot of I think Indian parents just gravitated to me when they saw that language, and I think I saw the similar thing kind of panning out for different cultures and different languages.
So it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was really, really great. And also a lot of sports wins. For example, the PWC is offering a yoga and Pilates class through this overarching wellness theme that they're kind of programming and piloting this year. Pictures from our bass club is always doing a really great job. And these are some pictures after the Stevenson vs. Caramel soccer game where they won by a pretty large margin. I think that our soccer team is doing pretty well, except I think they did lose to Mundelein recently. But otherwise, they have a very strong record this year. And then something new that's happening this year is that girls varsity ice hockey tryouts are happening. Never had the opportunity for this hasn't been an athletic opportunity provided before, so a lot of new things. Like I mentioned, girls flag football last meeting, which is also picking up some traction. Then girls varsity ice hockey now, so a lot of really great stuff in the athletics as well. And then in arts, I couldn't necessarily find a lot of pictures for these, so there's a lot of words on the slide. But there are a ton of things happening, and as always at the beginning of the year is filled with different plays, etc. And so they hosted its annual honors senior solo recital. They hosted a National Beard Day celebration where people came in, like celebrated beards and like put on like fake beards. That was kind of like organized by the Patriot Theater Company. And then also this weekend actually, the Bullies play is like they're performing 2 shows on Saturday, and then they're also in the next few weeks touring the middle school feeders as well, performing that play. So it's not just our Stevenson like school itself, but also expanding beyond that to our middle schools. And then also, I actually found this out from my co-FMP, who is in like very, very heavily involved in like the shows, and she's actually like the lead for this year's show, Legally Blonde. And she was telling me that they're actually undergoing this super cool renovation where they're getting like electric fly lines in like the PAC, so that rather than the crew having to pull on wires, they just click a button and things can drop down on the show. And so they're kind of using that this year for their show Legally Blonde. And then last week was the Triumph Music Honor Society induction. So a lot of new changes, a lot of cool stuff that is happening there as well. And then this is a video, so like I said last time, I wanted to really explore and kind of like look into like how do we spotlight different clubs. And so I asked different club leaders why their certain club existed in the Stevenson community and what that kind of brought. And so this is a video that I created. Yeah.
So Catalyst's purpose is to prevent substance use in the Stevenson community. We have many committees and we're just focused on making our community safe.
Your club exists to teach and inform people about the Greek culture.
For the East Coast Club, we exist because we kind of foster an environment where people can build their skills and include others into building their way into being how to play a competitive side.
Our purpose here at ESU is to communicate and acknowledge ourselves and our Black students at Stevenson. Our team personnel who need a place for hope, safety, comfortability, and community, while also exploring Black culture and history and overall understanding.
Hi, Zumba Club is meant to help students de-stress during the school week and to facilitate a positive community in a creative manner.
I represent Wellness Club. It's been fun to be able to see and we represent business, restoration, nutrition, all that stuff that's fun.
Yeah, we're a new club this year, Pickleball Club, and we help showcase this new sport to the younger generation, and we also have a competitive team that we're working on, and we can play against other schools.
Yeah, so that was just a cool video that I made, and I actually have a question for you guys. So I actually went through this and I watched, and I noticed a specific pattern. There was one word that was said like repeatedly. It was like the most said word throughout the video. Does anyone have any guesses?
Wellness?
Wellness was like, it was there, but community, yes. Community was like the most said word in this video, and that wasn't like me like being like, okay guys, mention community. It was like, they like in their like why their club exists in the Stevenson community, they mentioned that their club fosters a community for their certain goal. And I think that like what that speaks volume to is that like all these club leaders understand that the reason that their club here is it's like it maintains this equilibrium in our Stevenson environment where it's like each one has its own role, each one has its own like kind of supporting like way in like bringing about the diverse perspectives and activities that happen here. And I think that goes to show that like each one has its own role here and they're each fostering their own tiny little community within their own club. So really, really interesting to like just learn from these club leaders.
Oh, it's gonna start again.
Oh, I just had one more. And then like, this is just another club spotlight. So I was talking to some other club leaders, and so some of the things that are happening, the Startups in Business and Technology Club, they are creating teams for their final symposium pitch, which is actually happening in March, but they're like kind of working together now, finding out what specific issue they want to solve. And so like some ideas that I remember them talking about is like an eco-vendor vending machine where it's like you can recycle and you get credits for it that you can then use for like new products. And another one is like a kiosk for like Stevenson like Mexican rice bowl weeks and pasta and mac and cheese weeks where you can like order on a kiosk that like reduces like lunch lines. So those are all the different types of ideas that they're thinking about. So that's really, really cool. And then our Leading Feminism Club is also doing some very, very interesting discussion this week actually. So they're planning a discussion about how the recent Barbie movie relates to feminism and kind of how that sparks new discussions about gender norms and societal expectations. And so I think that's a very, very cool take on like kind of feminism and kind of bringing about and highlighting that conversation, but from this like new perspective of the Barbie movie, which everyone is crazed about. And then our Asian American Student Association is also, they held a Culver's Custard fundraiser last week to support funds for Maui amidst its natural disasters and wildfires that are taking place there. So supporting their community just even beyond this context. So a lot of great stuff happening in Stevenson, and I'm super glad that I got to highlight that this month. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Any questions?
Oh yeah.
The video is great.
Thank you.
Noticing community, that was,
Yeah.
thank you for
Very
pointing
cool.
that out to us.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, great job.
Thank you.
Do we have any visitors statements? Okay, then I think we are on to our ambassador.
Yes, all right. Well, tonight we begin with Ambassador Awards, and this is always the very best part of our meeting, the opportunity to honor some of our students. And the Board of Education really only gives out a small number of awards. One of them is the Ambassador Awards, and it recognizes students who achieve at the very top, either athletically at the state level or nationally with a first place finish, or academically at the very top of the ACT or SAT achievement test. So students who get a perfect score in either the ACT and SAT are recognized, and tonight we have the opportunity to recognize students in both the ACT and SAT. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. Our board meetings generally have a level of decorum that we expect and observe, but tonight, Mr. Gobble is enthusiastically participating in Pajama Day.
Pajama Day.
So, just wanted to make clear that normally Mr. Gobble looks very nice.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. So,
I'm doing pretty well. We get Amy out here so we can pass them out. So I am so excited to have the opportunity to recognize, we've not had Ambassador Awards for a few months, and we always get it's such a kick to recognize you. We'll invite you to come up. There'll be plenty of chances for pictures, so moms and dads, you need to take a picture, we'll do that. So we have two groups today. The first group, we have two students who earned a perfect score on the SAT test. A perfect score, a 1600, just amazing, a perfect score on the SAT. So first I'd like to invite up Grace Murray. Awesome. So Grace, just kind of hang out, just take a step or two that way, just hang out. And I also have Ethan Zhang. Not here, I assume.
Okay.
All right. Board, do we have any questions for Grace? Anybody?
I'm finishing my cookie.
Oh.
I was just hang out until we get that.
Yeah. All right, so amazing achievement here. Stay right there. We also have 5 students who earned a perfect score on the ACT over at the end of the spring or over the summer. So first we have Meghana Dixit. Oh, are you okay? For one? Yeah. Oh boy.
I'm super excited.
All right.
You don't have to stand here if you don't want.
Aaron Gann. Come on up, Aaron.
Take your time. No problem.
Wait, Jamie's gonna get one. Next up, Audrey Hong.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Who's the weird guy in the back?
I know, exactly. Don't know.
Elizabeth Yuan. And Joseph Zhu. Okay, Well, again, one more, you swallowed your cookie?
And finish
Yeah,
your
if you guys can turn around for just a minute. The board would like to ask a couple questions.
So Terry always asks, or should I'll let you
Your
ask.
famous question. Are you all seniors?
I am.
One senior? You're a senior, okay. And what are your plans for the coming year after you leave us at Stevenson? Do you know yet?
It's early, right?
Still a
little early.
College, I guess.
I would hope.
So when you left the test, did you feel like, oh, I know I aced this, I did really well? Or did you feel good about it, or any sense that you did so well?
There were probably like a few questions where I was like running over in my head, but mostly I was just like tired, and I was like, I was just hoping, you know.
Wow, imagine how you'd do if you weren't tired. The rest, had you taken the test a number of times, or was this like the?
Yeah, this was like the second or third time I took it, but I think this one went the best.
It is, and Troy, how many people get a 16 and a perfect score on the SAT and a perfect on the ACT?
It's like, in the whole state of Illinois, it's hundreds of kids, like 200 total, for all of the
900 school districts.
All of the 900 school districts, and we've got 7 of them in one season, not even 1 year, right? Because we've had other.
It's fantastic.
Well, congratulations, it's a great accomplishment and we're all very proud of you.
Very proud of you.
And thank you, everybody. This would be that moment of the meeting where we would be totally understanding if you decided you wanted to find your way out. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we'll take a nice 20-second pause to let you take the rest. Thank you all for being here. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. So you'll get to come back again.
Steve, you asked the question, did they know that they got all the questions right? When I took the ACT, I knew I got almost all the questions wrong. It was just a reverse. Opposite day.
Whatever you felt, they felt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off with you guys log in.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's that?
Okay.
I was just saying, he's putting my name on the test.
Oh, you got your name right?
Yeah.
That was 2 points.
2 points.
The bubble made without going in the circle.
No more bubbles.
All right. Well, if that was the best part of the meeting, this is always the second best part of the meeting. So, what's that? How do you follow that, right? But we are excited to resume our curriculum team presentations. We usually take June, July, and oh, that's a great picture of the team. June, July, and August off. And tonight we are excited to have our psychology team presenting on their social emotional learning experiences. And so, Brad, I'll let you introduce the team. Is that right?
Yes.
No, you guys can
It's exciting for me to have our psychology teams here. We've combined AP psychology and our college prep psychology because that ends up representing about half of every graduating class between the two programs that we have. AP Psych is our largest elective in social studies, so we're helping some of these seniors at least, since they take it as a senior year, get to that perfect SAT, I guess, so that they have a solid grounding in a variety of areas. But this is a team that for many years, as our SEL coordinator now knows, has been integrating a lot of SEL, I mean, since its onset. You cannot really talk about wellness and development of children and how adults behave in society in hopefully effective and ineffective ways. So we learn both the good and the bad through this program. Today, we're going to talk about some of the ways with our SEL work that we've made more explicit the valuing of subject, belonging, and of course, self-awareness. I will introduce very quickly, since I am here to let the stars shine, Caroline Shoup, Nancy Fenton, team leader of College Prep. Caroline, team leader at AP, Nancy, Stephanie Leverbrook, Sarah Gutierrez, from last year as well, and Dan Pierce. I will let you all take it from here.
Okay, well, thank you for having us. We wanted to start with the portrait of a graduate, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And it's definitely something that we just love. We're so proud of this that we talk about this with our students. We thought about it, what's a portrait of a psychology student? What do we want them? And how does that tie to the broader mission? So our course has a lot of SEL embedded in it. And we want to take it through the whole course, but help them build a growth mindset, build grit, which psychologists call a combination of passion and perseverance. And it's a skill, so you shouldn't expect to stay the same. We all need to keep growing. So this is a snapshot of our psychology student voice survey data, and we did pretty well. But we still have room for growth. And we decided to focus on valuing of subjects and classroom belonging. So with valuing of subjects, this is just kind of some longitudinal data. But we're gonna start kind of explicitly discussing it. So we created a series of slides, like a slide deck, that we can put individual slides in every unit to show you specifically, show students how this course and this particular content applies to computer science, it applies to engineering even, it applies to certainly medicine, careers in law, education, marketing, business. This is a specific question, so how often do you use ideas from this class in your daily life? And as Caroline is going to talk about, we switched our order around and we decided to start off the year with memory. Because that one they're definitely going to use in their daily life, right? The material that we're going to use in that course. And again, this is just kind of an overview of some of our units and the specific connections they have to their other classes, to their future careers, and to the portrait of a psychology student and portrait of a Stevenson grad that we want that commitment to self to others. Sarah.
As the coach on the panel, they gave me this slide. So thank you for all your support of girls flag football. I can put that shameless plug in there. It's been an absolute blast to be a part of that program so far. But one of the ways that Nancy actually brought this to us as something to kind of talk over with parents at parent nights and to talk with our students, because oftentimes they divide the skills that they're learning outside of the classroom and the ones inside the classroom as different. And what this slide does is just kind of brings together for them very explicit connections. You know, when you are an athlete, you are not just showing up to the game, right? There are countless, mindless practices and repetitions that you are doing. There is very purposeful skill building. There's very purposeful thought process of what am I doing and then challenging myself, right? Within a drill or within scrimmages or within competitions to ultimately get to the goal at the end of the season. And our athletes see that, but then those athletes go into the classroom, or our performers in the music realm go into the classroom, or our actors go into the classroom, and they don't see that skill connection. And so what this does is kind of bring together that idea that as an effective athlete, and you could put any other type of performance-based skill in here, they need to do those same things in the classroom, right? So even just something like the third piece down of the effective athlete, viewing videos of themselves, seeing their mistakes, making corrections to technique, that's a no-brainer for any athlete. We're breaking down film all the time on them. But then when you're in the classroom, they don't see their formatives in the same way. Then we're putting them in front of a formative. We want you to make mistakes. We want you to push yourself. This isn't a sticky grade. So now can we look at that and can I get better? And how can I become a better student? And what can I correct to continue to grow? It's just one of the ways that we're kind of showing them through a practical process in the classroom, this valuing of subject.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more explicitly about our memory unit. As Nancy mentioned, we decided to move our memory unit and teach it first this year, mostly because this is where we do teach science-backed strategies that will allow students to spend the limited amount of time that they have, because they are very busy, to its greatest benefit. So this is not only going to be helpful for them for the remainder of this year in EP psychology, but also in their other classes as well. We wanted to get a baseline assessment of the methods that students are already using as they are reading through their text, as they're completing formative assessments in class, and as they're reviewing for the assessments at the end of each unit. So we gave them a reflection of study habits survey. So we administered this to all of our students in both AP and college prep psychology, just to get a sense of where we were starting. And the nice thing about that is that we were able to use the student data to create new materials, to facilitate really valuable discussions in the classroom. So I'll just talk specifically about one thing that we noticed in the data, and that is that some of our students do seem to be, at least some of the time, relying on cramming as a study strategy, and some of that might be a necessity of time, but we also wanted to introduce to them to this idea that when you distribute your practice, when you space your studying out over multiple sessions, multiple subsequent days, what we find in the research is that leads to better long-term retention of the material, so that when they go to access that later on a final exam, on an AP exam, or just in life, they would have an easier time retrieving that information if this was their study strategy. And so we wanted to tie this to the SEL core competency of self-management in a really intentional way. So we created a calendar. We gave it to each one of them and said, okay, here's when your readings are due. Here's when the assessment will be. We want you to start by filling in all the things that you have going on outside of class. You know, fill in when you have practice, when you have various extracurricular activities. I asked them to plan in some time for leisure, to see your friends, to have hobbies, spend time with your family. But then I asked them to find pockets of time in those couple of weeks where they could pull out their packet or jump on Quizlet for 10, 15 minutes and can work on that strategy of spaced learning. And what we find is that not every student necessarily follows through on their plan, but I will say even the students that didn't said that they plan to utilize this strategy in future units because they saw that it worked for their friends and their peers, so.
All right, another question that we asked our students was relating to how well they're actually paying attention to the source of instruction as opposed to their iPad, their phone, the person walking by in the hall, the person sitting next to them. And we would have loved to have seen 100% of our students in the orange, but less than 50% landed there. And so we had some conversations and we realized that, like, if we were to ask any of our seniors, what do you think you should be doing in class? They would all know, yeah, we should be totally focused in on our instructional source. So clearly there's a gap, right, between what they know they should be doing and what they're actually doing. And so we decided to try to do a new demonstration to help them just see, like, how much switching back and forth between what you're paying attention to can actually really do them a disservice. And so we did a demonstration, and it could be done in quite a few ways, but if we were to have students, and we did this, they partnered up and we timed them doing 3 different tasks. First task, we asked them to count from 1 through 26 as quickly as they could. Second task, also pretty easy, we asked them to go through the alphabet A through Z as quickly as they could. Then our third task, we asked students to alternate back and forth. So 1A, 2B, 3C, and so on. And that third task for them was far more challenging. And so the results, right, they don't shock anyone. Students are really easily able to do the first 2 tasks quickly. They don't make any mistakes. But there's so much laughter in the classroom when they're trying to alternate back and forth between these 2 tasks. And then this sets up a really nice conversation that we can have with our students, because we can say to them, like, we know in your real life, you're not counting 1 through 26 or doing the alphabet. So, like, what would those tasks be? And then it's really easy for them to say, oh, the 1 through 26, that's like when we're working on our formative. And A through Z is maybe if we're texting our friends in between something that we're supposed to be doing. And then we can just make the point to them that, like, if you were simply to focus in intentionally on one task at a time and do it well, not only would you get through more, but you would be so much more efficient. And then our hope is that they end up taking what we do in that little demo, right, into our class, throughout their other classes, and moving forward. And so what we're really trying to do as we're going through, as Nancy said in the very beginning of this, we really want students to understand the value of what we're doing in our classes of psychology, how it shapes their lives outside of the classroom as well. And so to get from the valuing of subject all the way through to self-management, we have a few different tasks that we go through. We work on coaching with our students. And so Caroline mentioned a couple of the ways that we're doing that in our very first unit, right? We're going through, here's how you set up your calendar, here's how to plan in for all of your different activities, and here's some study strategies in terms of spacing out the work that you're doing. We do a lot of fun demos in psych, and we're really making now an extra conscious effort that they understand, like, yes, it was fun, but how does it tie into the bigger picture? And so when we do that demo of task switching, that's one of the types of things that we are going through and debriefing. And then finally, and in a little bit, Sarah's gonna talk through the section about feedback and reflection, but we make a really big effort in all of our units to build in time to give students feedback, to get feedback from students on what should be different in the future, and also give them time to reflect on what has worked well for them and what are some changes that they could make moving forward as they continue on in the class, so that ideally, right, they land with these really strong self-management skills, they build their self-efficacy to do really well, not only in our classes, right, but throughout the rest of their classes and beyond in the rest of their life outside of Stevenson too.
So we have a post-test survey, and really asking these students after this unit, you know, what did you actually utilize? What was helpful to you? So giving them an opportunity to reflect on and think about, you know, what was useful and maybe what do I want to carry on to my other classes? And so I think what's really encouraging here from the data is that they were using these things, right? Like, it's the first time they're seeing them, but we're seeing good encoding strategies, and it's not passive, these are purposeful, and they're thoughtful in what they're encoding. Storage strategies, right? How am I actually keeping these things and able to go back to retrieve them, and then into our retrieval strategies, right? These ideas of, well, I'm using the things that are more long-term. They're gonna keep this stuff sticking for a longer amount of time for my ability to then pull back, right, in my own life. And then for these AP students in particular, the reality that their AP test is in the spring, right? So am I gonna be able to then not only get these memory devices back, but can I use these for helping myself throughout the semester and throughout the year? And then we had some just student voice opportunities, right, where they weren't just picking from all of the different options, but they were actually writing things down that they did. And I think that this is really great, just showing, especially from the AP side, the way that we're seeing some of those same athlete models follow here, as well as seeing some of these explicitly taught components. So we have the homework planner, right, that Caroline was talking about, bringing them through that step-by-step, thinking about more than just their actual, here's what I have to read tonight and here's when the test is. We see things like learn from mistakes. I think that that's such a valuable part of being a learner, but to get to see seniors in high school already learning that is amazing, and we hope that they can continue to do that. I like talking to others. That's really valuable when they're not just on their iPads or phones, they're actually having conversations within class. And then the really, really powerful stuff of that self-reference effect, connecting it back to themselves, which is the valuing of subject that we're trying to get to at the end of the day.
Okay, so kind of our last step in moving forward is the other place besides valuing of subject that we wanted to look at was classroom belonging. And while 89%, yes, is wonderful, we want to keep building on that. And so the one that we kind of zoned in on is this idea of improving peer-to-peer relationships and making sure that students in our classrooms believe that they matter within the larger community of our classroom. And so making sure, how do we build in these different ways that the kids can connect to each other, accept who they are, accept who each other are as learners, as people, and to build that resilience and empathy. And so our course is, we are very lucky to teach it because our job is literally to teach that acronym of CARE, both for themselves and for others. And that's what I say on Parent Teacher Night. Like, I'm so fortunate to teach a class that really matters for developing human beings. And so that's what we want the kids to also realize, that being kind of in this class, that they're fortunate, and to use that opportunity to get to know people, especially with seniors, as they're gonna be leaving the bubble of Stevenson and really being with people who are very, very different than they are. And so this can hopefully start to help them build that. So one of the things we do, one of our units focuses in on the development of language. And so we give a survey. This is one kind of smaller one from last year, but just asking students how many languages they speak. And just that data in and of itself is pretty fascinating. And again, a small subject, size, but looking at just the variety of them. And then we have here, which ones. And we show our students this. It's not just like for fun for us to collect because we think it's interesting, which it is also, but to like then put this back on the screen for the kids to see, and people are shocked, and it opens up a whole conversation about, oh, really? I speak that also, or I had no idea. And last year I did it period by period, so it was small for them to see, oh, somebody in this anywhere from 22 to 28 person classroom speaks the same language that I do, or I didn't realize somebody else did. And so this is one purposeful way that we try to build that community and peer-to-peer relationships. And so that's really what we're going to focus on the rest of this school year. We'll incorporate all of the valuing of subject throughout, but then also trying to be really purposeful about including, like in some of our tests, having more inclusive language, which I know some of us have started to do, and in our formatives, changing the names of the examples of the people instead of just saying Dan and Joe did this, of incorporating different cultural names into our tests and formatives that are more reflective of the Stevenson community, and continuing on from there.
That is really powerful.
And it worked really well, and Kosh was talking about that with that, like when he was talking, I was like, cool, he didn't even look at our slides, I don't think. So, you know, we are hopefully as a school really developing that, and we had no idea that they did that. I don't think we noticed about the back to school night, which is awesome. And so this really kind of played right into that. So with that, thank you so much for listening to us.
Awesome, just awesome.
Awesome.
For questions.
You know, if I didn't feel dumb after the ACT and SAT.
5 languages.
No. Thanks. I do have a question. So that slide that you had, the valuing of subject that led to self-management.
It's a big feeling.
Yeah, can you just, this was fascinating to me. Can you just kind of talk through like how and why you saw are you suggesting here that this leads to self-management? I guess I was just curious, like this is an interesting kind of take on valuing of subject and why we would place an emphasis on that. I just thought this was really cool. Can you maybe elaborate on this a little bit?
I think it's that idea of just kind of looking at the data, what is the data giving us with valuing of subjects, and the importance that we want our students, especially in a subject that's literally about people, to value that everywhere that they're going. So starting there and then saying, how do we take that to then, okay, yes, we want valuing subjects, but then how do we move that to a manageable skill within the SEL framework? And so by bringing them through kind of those step-by-step components where they are reflecting and they're having to do those different skills throughout for themselves and for their peers, that's getting them to the point that when they leave us, they might not be realizing they're doing self-management right now, right? But now they're getting those skills that we're coaching them on that then are gonna be like, oh, in psych I did this, and now I can self-manage myself in college, I can self-manage myself in this job of, I have a billion things going on, how do I now like control the narrative to get myself to where I need to go and the things that I do care about and the people that I care about and the experiences that I care about. So I think that's kind of the flow that we were seeing and envisioning.
I got it, sorry, took me a minute.
And you let them in on the trick? Like, hey, we've been trying to teach you that psych is great, but you're doing do you tell the kids that at the end? Like, we've really been working on self-management this whole time, haha.
Tricking them throughout psychology, yes. We do that all the time.
Literally every time.
How silly it would be to imagine that psychology would not be tricking folks.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I will say, I have to stick up for them because that is the number one comment we will get from our students is whenever they come in to do any demo, it's like, what is the real reason behind why we're doing this and how long before we find out?
I love
that is.
Never trust us.
Never trust us.
Yes.
I have one question, one observation or comment. So your results of your surveys is phenomenal. I mean, those percentages put you in the 99.9th percentile, I'm sure, in each of those. But I don't follow or didn't follow, were those results before or after you did the things that you've described to us? And do you know how those
Oh, sorry. This data?
Yeah.
This is before we've done like the intentional memory unit. So this was from last spring, this data.
Okay.
And so now we've implemented more of these strategies. We do a lot of these inherently, like our job and our course allows us to be incorporating SEL consistently throughout and building these skills. But we took it upon ourselves to kind of dig deeper into the two of our lower achieving standards, to try to continue to build. So we haven't gotten recent data since doing.
Gotcha, so the things that you were describing, your techniques, are all in response to this data, and then when you get the next, you'll be able to tell what the impact of it was.
Yes. Yep.
And the other thing I was gonna it's great, obviously. The other thing I was gonna mention, and I know there's some people in the room that are gonna hit me, so I'm glad I'm sitting far away from them as I say this. The slide that you had with the athlete versus, I'll look at the coach as I say this. We had a board member who left the board who gave us books to read all the time. And Merv Roberts gave us, what was the book on deliberate practice? And
Deliberate practice.
Was it called deliberate practice? But his whole point, and the point of the book, which I read, and it's great, is that we don't really focus on the fact that we need to be intentional about the practice that we are doing. And the book builds on all sorts of examples. And this just lays it right out there in the fact that athletes just inherently do it. It was just like, it's a
Athletes, musicians, performers.
Yeah, yeah.
The way to overcome the forgetting curve, according to psychology, is overlearning. You keep practicing. Right? It's also the way to overcome nervousness. So I'll say to students, well, if you're in orchestra or band or play a sport, the first time you do the play or the routine correctly, does your coach say, okay, work your son, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks? And they're like, no, you keep practicing it. So that when you're there, when you have that nerves of performing, that's how you overcome that. And it's no different than nerves on a test. Or a test, taking is still a performance event. It's the same physiological reaction that stage fright would be. And the same treatment, which is preparation.
Yes.
Could you possibly send Eric that slide so that he could share it? Because I may or may not have someone in my life that really.
It won't show up as good.
I was gonna ask you to send it to me. So my parents were taking photos of the slide.
I'm happy to share it with you all.
This is brilliant.
Yeah, I'll share the PowerPoint.
You should get this book. The example that I like to give, which I never thought of, is for those in the room that golf. Many of us, or who think we golf, many of us will go to a driving range and we'll bang out golf balls, okay? And I was with my golf instructor and he asked me if before each ball I hit, do I sit and think about where I'm hitting it, what technique I'm trying to use as I'm hitting, what is the purpose of the shot that I'm making at that point that I'm practicing, which I go and I bang out golf balls. And so it's, to your point, it just applies in all aspects of life if you stop and think about it. It's fascinating.
I was curious, with all of the SEL work that's being done throughout the school and all the subjects, and do you find students come in and make connections, not tricking them, but are they saying, well, this happened in math and that's psychology, and they're, do they see that they're sort of, that this is all being integrated everywhere they go?
It's very cool.
They can recognize
Yeah,
it?
when we learn something and they're like, oh, or they'll come back and be like, oh, yesterday in this class, we just did this. And I was like, oh, I know this. And they it's light bulb moments for them too. Like they are really excited about it, which is very fun.
That's
Psychology it's a hub science, so when they collect the data, like cross-referencing across disciplines, psychology is always there. So they're gonna see our class and their econ class and their anatomy class and their business class. It's too much off the top of my head, law, child development, like there's so much overlap. Like valuing of subject should be our top one. I mean, it's a class where they can see immediate use. Sometimes you don't see the benefit for a few years.
Sure.
Like you start learning a language, right? You don't really get good at it. You don't get the benefits for a few years.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is
Thank
really,
you.
really
Thank you
good.
very
We really
much.
appreciate it.
Great job.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Oh.
Thanks,
Great.
Lori.
Thank you.
That was a psych doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They said, what do you like? I like history.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so moving right along, next item is approval of our 2023-24 goals, projects, and initiatives. You have seen this information previously in terms of our GPIs, but what you have tonight linked is just an absolutely Herculean task by Mark, putting together all of the action steps around our GPIs. So Mark led out a process with the administrative team to put together all this information. So thank you, Mark, we appreciate that. There's a lot of work that went into here. And obviously, you know, there's very specific action steps that different divisions are going to be taking. And then once we've already started doing the work, but we'll approve it tonight, and then throughout the year, the admin team members will be leading this work out. And then as a reminder, we'll be providing you with a summary of all of this work in the end of year report. I'm not sure if 130 pages constitutes a summary, but there'll be an end of year report that'll have all of the work that's been done. So tonight we're presenting to you the the GPIs for the 2023 school year for your approval.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second. Yeah, Mark, thank you as well, that it was, I think this was a little different than what we've seen in previous years. It's nice to be able to kind of put, what are people doing? We've read, you know, all of these GPIs for a long time, but just to break it out like that, so I'm sure it was time consuming, but I appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay, it's a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, next item is a recommendation for approving our curriculum let me repeat. Next item is a recommendation to approve our curriculum proposals for the 2024-25 school year. Just as a reminder, you saw these as letters of intent in April and May. You saw them last month as curriculum proposals as a first reading, and then tonight we're presenting them to for your approval. And just as a reminder, after you approve these tonight, if you choose to do so, they will go to Jamie, and Jamie's team prepares the course book, and that will be ready for our no homework night, and let's talk about your future evening in October, and then course selection, which starts in December. So it's kind of a snowballing, and if you can imagine, in about 6 weeks, we'll already start planning for next school year, which is kind of weird to think about. So tonight, we're bringing our course proposal recommendations to you for next school year.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? I had one question, Mark. In the AP pre-calc, it's designated out as Path A and Path B. Is it the same class and we're just differentiating, or are they offering two different AP pre-calcs?
It's two different AP pre-calcs that go into two different pathways. So one establishes one to AP BC and AP.
Okay.
So the AP exam is the same for both classes. But the one that goes into BC, there's actually 2 extra units of study that are important if you're gonna get through all of the work, cause the BC class actually covers 2 calculus courses if you take that test. So there's a little bit of pre-work you need to do before you get into BC. So they both cover the same amount of material. The one pathway covers more at the end, but both AP tests are the same.
Okay.
And AP doesn't even identify them as different courses, right? That's an internal.
Okay.
We've made that decision.
You've made that.
That's what I was, okay.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yep, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Terry, could you please? poll the
Sure.
board?
Ben Joseph. Aye. Chapel.
Aye.
Corson.
Aye.
Coons, aye. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Carries 7-0.
Okay, and then tonight we have, for your approval, our board policy updates that we shared last month. And no changes since that last month, but tonight we'll present them to you for your approval.
Make a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
And then the only, just a couple quick thoughts. The first is most of the items are kind of wordsmithing, but policy 230, 2:230 was an update to public participation guidelines. And I think what we wanted to do was clarify our hopes and expectations for members of the public who were giving public comment and writing into policy our hope and expectation that folks meet a certain time limit, but also even more importantly, to keep their comments relevant and directed to the business of the school. So in the past, we've seen comments kind of go sideways. Our hope is that we keep it focused on the work of the board and the school. So that is the more substantive policy update that's included.
Correct.
So.
Any other question? It's a voice
I
vote.
did, I'm sorry, I did it, just out of curiosity, and Eric, this is probably, how do they conduct, I saw that EHR employment history review, I'm just curious how they do that employment history review, like how is that done when you guys do that?
What policy number was that?
So it's referenced in a couple of them, this has nothing, I'm just curious, what you could.
Yeah, I think this is, you're talking about faith law?
Yeah.
So we use we actually subscribed, Kim did a great job of not only helping write the law, but implement the procedures that we need to follow to do that. And we ended up teaming with a company called Verifed. And what's nice is that they handle all of the communications, and then we get basically a dashboard, if you will. And it's like we could see Sean submitted, this, and this, or, it hasn't been submitted. And what's interesting about the law is it's very specific. We have to make an attempt to find out about their background and not actually get everybody's responses, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But we use a company, and what we found out is that there are many other school districts, through Kim and her organizations that have signed on as well. And because everybody is, the amount of energy to implement this is significant. So the fact that a company has realized this, taken on that, and has other school districts and employers, people like Sodexo, people like First Student, signing in on this just makes it that much easier for us. And then all we have to do is contact, First Student and say, we want the results if somebody pops that's gonna be serving our district.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Eric, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I really appreciate it. I did not know all the background. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, next item is personnel, all of which is included in the consent agenda. But happy to answer any questions if you have any, kind of a usual assortment of hirings and resignations, leaves of absence. Yep, so. We will not need an executive session following the meeting. And that takes us to the business section. Sean, approval of banking services.
Yeah, we've brought this to the board before in the first reading several months ago, putting together the request for proposal. was a little bit more intense than we thought, but once we got through it, we did have 4 different banks submit an application to handle our services. We narrowed the list down to 3. We tried to narrow it down to just 2, but we did find 3 and interviewed each of the parties. We had a list of questions, went through all of them and tried to get a feel of who's going to best meet the needs of the district. And you know, when we're talking about like what those needs are, we're talking about return on our investment. We're talking about collateralization amounts. We're talking about when is the cutoff date for sending an ACH or a payroll, and how, you know, if something's slow, how quickly can we respond? And at the end of the day, they all offered similar services, but what we came down with is we think that the best fit for Stevenson is in fact Libertyville Bank and Trust, which is a Wintrust company or community bank. And so at the end of the day, we are making a recommendation to the Board of Education to approve a new banking agreement with Libertyville Bank and Trust Company, which is a Wintrust community bank.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do we, just curious about this, do we really use an armored car service
Yep.
often?
Yep, we have them come every week, so even though we are, a large majority of our transactions are in fact credit card or Patriot Dollar cards, we still have a need for cash through Sodexo. And you know, I don't wanna give out specific numbers,
No,
but
I
it's
get it.
enough.
No.
It's enough that we need an armored car service.
Just a function of scale, I would imagine.
What's that?
Just a function of scale, I would imagine.
Correct.
That we're doing cash
That
transactions.
makes sense.
Yeah, and in getting enough coin or singles and fives as things go on, so.
Any other questions? Okay, Terry, could you please pull for?
Certainly. Gorson.
Aye.
Moons, aye. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Sal.
Aye.
Carries 7-0.
Excellent, thank you. The next item I have for your approval tonight is the second reading of our copier contract. This is a smaller batch of copiers, but just to refresh everybody's memory, we have probably about 7 years ago, maybe even longer, we were we had a lot of not only multifunction devices, but individualized printers, and we went through a whole process of trying to eliminate just a printer and going with more with centrally located multifunction devices. And it's helped reduce the amount of copies that we end, but it's also saving us money. And those multifunction devices often are a lot cheaper to operate than a printer, if you will, on a per page process. So we do have some copiers that are coming off of contract, and so we have 6 machines that we are looking to replace with only 3. So tonight we are asking the Board of Education to approve our Canon copier contract at a cost not to exceed $87,420 as presented. And if I could just make one last final note, we have all of our business was with 2 vendors, Image Tech and Canon, and we always get quotes from both of them, and they kind of each have their own little niche, and so that kind of keeps our cost at market, if you will, but also the continuity of not having 3 or 4 different service vendors having to come into the building to service the copiers on a regular basis, because these are machines that do produce a lot of copies and do need to have maintenance. Sorry, thank you. I should have said that before I asked for the motion.
Okay, cool. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Don?
Steve.
No, Steve.
Steve. All right, any questions for Sean? All right, Terry, could you please pull?
Sure. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Sal.
Aye.
Gorson.
Aye.
Moon's aye. Carries 7-0.
Okay, and the next item is a recommendation to approve an update to our intergovernmental agreement with the foundation. The last time that we've updated this agreement was in 2018, and a lot has actually changed since then. The foundation has gone through some significant changes, not only in leadership, but generally speaking in practices and procedures. So the update to the intergovernmental agreement really just kind of codifies how the foundation currently works. There's nothing in here that is new or significantly different from our current practice. But in talking with Linda, we just wanted to make sure that we actually had this now articulated in the intergovernmental agreement. So although there's one section there that looks like it's pretty significant, it actually is just, really just kind of codifying what we're already doing. So the foundation board is approving this agreement this month, and we're asking you to do the same.
Can I please get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I had, this is silly, but we were looking at the banking stuff for us. Do they follow it? Like, is everything sort of linked, or do they have their own separate? If we change banks, do they change banks, and our accounts are kind of linked? Like, how deep does that go?
That's a great question. They have not made a decision on their banking at this point in time. They often will follow in a lot of our things. At this time, we chose not to include them in the RFP. If they have a discussion and want to choose to change their bank, they
So it's up to them, it's not required?
It's really up to them and it's not required.
Okay.
I think the only requirement in their bylaws is that the assistant superintendent position and the superintendent positions serve on their board of directors.
Any other questions? Okay, Terry, could you please pull the board?
Certainly. Frost.
Aye.
Noel.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Chow.
Aye.
Gorson.
Aye.
Tyre.
Aye.
Moon's aye.
One final thing on the foundation, want to thank Grace for her service on the foundation. We appreciate all that you've done. And then just as a side note, Amy is stepping up into the role of the board representative to the foundation. So thank you to you both, we appreciate it. And it's a good group and it's a lot of fun. And
great work going on.
and they're doing really good work, so.
Yeah, and I've been talking to Noelle Moore, their president, prior to stepping onto their board, about how can we kind of all get to know each other a little bit better. So we will continue to look for opportunities to invite everybody to join them or to kind of integrate the two.
So
Which
I do
think
have,
to that, sorry,
no,
Friday
please.
night, I think at the homecoming game, they will have a tent at the north
yeah.
end zone.
Yes.
Friday night,
A
so.
little concerned, it's like
What?
it's up to over 400 participants that are coming on
This year.
Friday night. And
Goodness.
we are giving tours to over 100 people on Saturday morning,
Wow.
Wow.
so. Two different
Everybody's
time
at the
slots.
game and you wanna stop by and say hello to the foundation
Okay,
folks,
yeah.
we will be in the tent.
You're giving them all.
I'm training,
You're training people to give those tours? Good.
working on it.
So this is the, I'm out of town this weekend, but this weekend is Hall of Fame. Is that this weekend?
I believe that's
It's
also.
Saturday
this weekend.
morning.
And if you can, it's unbelievably moving, because all the inductees, if you have not been to one of these, the inductees give presentations and speeches about their experiences, and it's always a tearjerker. It's just really, if you can and you can go,
Yeah, it is a nice event.
it's really a good event.
I do have a consent agenda item and a consent agenda item, we'll try that again. And a first reading. The first reading is a contract renewal with Siemens. If you recall, Siemens currently handles our building automation system. They help us with our fire alarm system and our door access system. So this particular contract has to do with the software upgrades, the troubleshooting, and what I tend to call fix and repair that of everything that's associated with our with DeSigo, which is our building automation system. So we'll have more information, some comparisons, alternatives in the mid-meeting memo as we finalize that contract, if you will. And then every year, the board is asked to approve the administrator and teacher salary and benefits report. And you can see there's a variety of different categories that are required by the State Board of Education. We are seeking your approval tonight on the consent agenda as that as well, so.
Is it on the consent or it's on the?
I think it's consent, isn't it? Okay.
Sean, can I ask a question about the FOIA request? You and I didn't get a chance to talk about this one from, well, it seems like two very unrelated asks. One about the floor plans.
Yeah.
That makes me very nervous.
Yeah.
Why somebody would be interested in that. It seems to me security, safety wonderments. But then also in the same FOIA support and faculty base salary for the years of, was that for each employee or for the contract?
For that one was for the.
Just for the contract, or they wanted each employee's base salary?
We gave them each
support and faculty.
Just, okay, so that did not take you, I guess I was worried about how much time that was gonna be to put that together.
No, we responded how we traditionally do, where that information is readily available.
On the web, perfect, okay.
And the floor plan one was an interesting one. PNI did contact our legal representation for that very reason, Eric.
Yeah.
And it was just a very simple response that we
got it.
Yeah.
Responses were
So
big.
we're not providing them
We're big.
any, yeah.
It's a big floor plan. Is that what you said?
I guess I was just curious what,
Yeah, it's complicated.
why, what was the,
No, legally
like,
it's on an exception list.
Yeah, it's on an exception list.
I guess I was curious more why, you know?
But he didn't, there was no contact
Very
information to
suspicious
connect, other than the email, which they typically don't respond to.
Got it. Okay.
We
Thank
usually
you.
like to call and really ask what specifically they're looking for.
Yeah.
I got it. You said it is or it is not on an exception list?
It is.
Thank you.
For that very reason.
For safety reasons.
We assumed that, but we weren't 100% sure, so we got
That makes sense, I'm glad.
our
Thank you.
Who is this Dr. Jeff? Do we know who he is?
He's a repeat requester.
All right, I think that brings us to the consent.
So moved.
Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Terry, could you please pull the board?
Oh, anybody have any questions? No,
Question
good.
about consent? No.
No.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Gorson.
Aye.
Munzai. Tyre.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
It's approved.
Okay, just a couple items tonight for me. The first is, I just wanted to note that we had two kind of unfortunate incidents happen last week regarding safety and security. And so you probably saw that we sent out two communications, one last Monday, one last Tuesday. I don't want to minimize the concern that those communications cause, but by the same token, between Troy and I, we can just share with you that after investigating both of these incidents, Troy, I think it's fair to say that it was very clear that neither of them were a real threat. The student who brought essentially a toy gun, a BB gun, a soft gun to school, didn't want his parents to know that he ordered it on Amazon, so thought it would be a better choice to bring it into the school building. And the student whom posted on TikTok or whatever it was, Instagram, about the bomb threat at the school, did it purely as a joke. It wasn't even his phone, it was his friend's phone. So it was one of those situations where, you know, adolescent brains making really bad choices. But I think we felt after we investigated it that they weren't, you know, real threats per se. But scary for some who read those emails. I don't want to minimize them, but you know, in the continuum of, severity of threat. We felt like after investigating that they weren't threats that were imminent, just unfortunate, really bad choices that kids made and ended up suffering some pretty significant consequences, not only by the school, but by law enforcement as well. So really unfortunate. I don't know, Troy, anything else? Is that a fair summary?
That is a very fair summary.
So,
And was one of those students a special needs student?
so there's some factors, lots of different issues, So we're doing the best we can and unfortunately, we're not the only school to have kids making some really bad choices. I think, again, our psych team may have been able to tell us more, but adolescent brains aren't fully developed, and so you're seeing at different schools in the area, different instances of swatting or kids calling in different threats. And by the same token, what makes it difficult is that there are some very real and significant and scary incidents happening in schools in the area. We're having kids, who are being shot, frankly. And so that's what makes all of this very difficult, I think, for us to manage, our way through. So our feeling has been, that we're gonna do everything we can to over-communicate and just try to be sure that we're letting people know what's going on, so.
I appreciated the alacrity around the investigations and you communicating that even though these weren't ultimately serious threats, they were taken seriously. I think that is so important for everyone to understand.
Yeah, we have to. I mean,
Yeah, you can't dismiss them.
Can't dismiss them. But Troy and Eric Ramos, and his team and the deans, everybody does a good job of kind of digging in and literally stopping everything, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night and diving in. So it's frustrating, but we'll continue to do it. So. Other items, just kind of some random things here. We provided you, as we do every year at this time, with an evaluation summary of the data from the 2022-23 school year. There was an interesting article about DEI initiatives. We had a fantastic breakfast this morning, Troy. For those who excel, you want to give a little overview of that? That was very cool.
Yeah, we actually, it was wonderful, especially the math department specifically. I think you can probably see the names of the awardees on the list there, but every year, for those of you that are new, the state of Illinois allows us to nominate different employees from around the school, support personnel, new teacher award, teacher of the year, academic team that we're proud of. And so we have always taken this very seriously. As a matter of fact, we'll take 2 or 3 days out of admin team to really discuss who we want to nominate and why. What they've done has been important. So it's important for us, and we brought them together this morning to celebrate and also give them an assignment, because at the end of it, they have to write a little essay about themselves and what they've done well. And so this morning, one of the early educators, Kristen Coe, is from our math department, and she probably had 20 to 25 math teachers who showed up early this morning to celebrate with her. We also celebrating the Little Pates team. They are incredible, and as I said today, hundreds of the faculty and staff that are here over the last 25 years have had their kids go through that program. And the chance to get to recognize them and celebrate with them today was just a lot of fun. And probably the coolest thing was they brought some of the little guys down. They were eating donuts and celebrating. So it was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, got them all sugared up and then sent them back. Yeah, in their pajamas. They were all in their pajamas too. So it's really a great opportunity to celebrate with them, and you'll get to see them all in March, April. What are we gonna have? We'll have a reception with that crowd.
May. Probably. May board meeting, yep. So the nominations are due a little bit earlier than they're in the past, but it's kind of a fun way to start the school year too, to be able to celebrate some folks, so.
Yeah, 'cause it used to be at the end of the year and people were like, oh.
Also wanted I know you know this information, but just wanted to note that US News and World Report identified Stevenson High School as one of the very best in the country, as was presented earlier, it was such a nice recognition from the representatives. But also, you know, we take pride in the fact that for the 4th year in a row, we were the #1 open enrollment school in the state of Illinois. So kudos to all of our faculty and staff and students for making that happen. And then also included there is a summary of what's happening at the ELC. Things are just getting going. We had a board meeting last week, not a lot happening yet, or a couple weeks ago we had a board meeting. But we'll keep providing those summaries each month. Pia works with Megan and her staff over there to pull all that information together, so you can have a look at that. And then we had a board dialogue tonight, so thank you all for being a part of that, taking a look at career pathways here at Stevenson. We'll have 2 more board dialogues this year, one in December, one in April, I believe. And we'll focus on including students in those next time to make sure that you get an opportunity to interact with our kiddos. So we're still trying to pull together what exactly those will look like. Troy and Ted will work on that in the next couple months, but we wanna make sure you have an opportunity to talk to kids. And then, I know we mentioned this before, but we are gonna be moving that February board meeting to Tuesday, February 20th. And then do please remember on Monday, October 2nd, we'll have an executive session from 7 to 9 p.m. to discuss matters related to safety and security. And that is all I have for tonight.
The couple of profiles.
Oh, yes, thank you to
Really
Pia and Jamie for
Yeah,
putting
those
that
are
together, yeah. It's very cool, I'm sorry, I scrolled right past that.
Right, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?